Indeed. Good morning, Jumana. And guys, that's right. As our coverage here at the G7 finance leaders meeting continues, you mentioned that UK GDP drop, that was about 2 hours ago, came in at plus 0.1%, pretty much in line. We have with us now here live and also exclusively Jeremy Hunt, who's taking part in these meetings, the UK Chancellor of the Exchequer, and he joins us now live. Chancellor, great to see you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it very much.
It's a pleasure, Martin.
Pleasure is ours as well. So first reaction to that plus 0.1% GDP print, which dropped about 2 hours ago. Is that good enough for you to say, yes, the UK is back?
I think the UK is back, and those are numbers that no one would have predicted even 3 months ago. These are much higher growth projections, and the Governor of the Bank of England said that part of the reason was the policies that I've introduced and Rishi Sunak's government have introduced in the last few months that have restored stability to public finances and started to tackle some of the big issues we face alongside other countries like labour supply. But I think we are aware there is still a long way to go. We still have inflation that is too high. Growth is still not as high as we would like it to be. And when I talk to my fellow finance ministers, we all talk about the same thing: labour supply, productivity, how we're going to increase our long-term growth rates so that we can pay for the increasing number of things that taxpayers want governments to do.
UK growth right now has been described as anemic. Is that fair?
I think growth has been very low across all advanced countries. I mean, we've just had two huge shocks. We've had a once-in-a-century pandemic and an energy price shock that's probably the biggest since the 1970s. And so everyone is trying to absorb that. And I think we all believe, certainly we in the UK believe, that the most important thing we need to do is to focus on getting inflation down. Once inflation is down and you have stability, you can start to get growth up because consumers don't have to worry about their shopping bills, businesses are happier to invest, and you create a stable environment for growth.
We'll get to inflation in just a bit because I think we recall back in January, your Prime Minister Rishi Sunak promised to get inflation, to have it from 10-ish, where it was, to by the end of this year. But we'll get to that in just a bit. Bank of England, Andrew Bailey and his compatriots overnight raised interest rates to 4.5%. Given the GDP print we just had 2 hours ago, was that the right thing to do, do you think?
Yes, and we strongly support them in doing that because what we need to do is to deal with the fundamental instability in the economy that's caused by inflation. Over 10%. Like many other countries, we have food inflation around 19%. We need to bring those numbers down, and then the growth will be up. And
that is the main driver of inflation in the UK, yes. Food.
So that's one of the main drivers. Yeah. Obviously, energy prices over the last year have been a significant driver as well. But we need to get inflation down. The Bank of England is squarely focused on that. As the government, we have our part to play too by making sure we get borrowing under control, that our public finances add up. That reduces inflationary pressures in the economy as well.
Chancellor, about a month ago you were in D.C. and much print has been made from that visit. There seems to be a running battle going on between yourself and the IMF. They're a lot more pessimistic than you are. The folks there think that the UK is likely to be the slowest or weakest large industrialized economy on the planet this year, and that the UK economy is more likely than not to shrink. You come out to say that, look, I will prove them wrong. What is the evidence?
I think the evidence is today's figures. I think lots of people were expecting the UK economy to contract, instead of which it's grown only by a little bit. It's grown over the quarter, and I believe then and I believe now the UK will be resilient this year. But I would also say that in those IMF figures from 2025, the UK is predicted for the 3 years that follow to grow faster than Germany, France, Italy, other big European countries. And in fact, last year we were the fastest growing in the G7. So I think the thing about economic figures is you can take any one snapshot to tell any story you want, but the bigger picture is one that is encouraging for the UK.
Let's drill down a little bit deeper into this issue of inflation. We've talked about, you just mentioned how food is one of the reasons why inflation is still, although it has eased a bit, it's still problematic for the UK. The issue of wage growth and wages themselves. We've seen widespread industrial action, strikes in the UK. And on the one hand, you can sort of understand where they're coming from, right? They just want a wage that keeps up with the cost of living. The conundrum is, and it gets to be a vicious cycle, does it not? If you end up giving it to them, of course, it drives up inflation further. If it does not, they strike, and that affects growth. What is the way out of this cycle?
Well, we totally understand why people are angry when they see the cost of their weekly shop go up as much as it has. And we're trying very hard to resolve these strikes. We've managed to get the support of some of the major unions in a way that does resolve it. But the one thing we won't do, just as you say, is to agree to pay awards that fuel inflation, because then we'll just be making the situation worse. And that has made it a very difficult period for industrial relations. But what I would say to people looking at the UK from overseas is that, you know, here I am in Japan. I talk to Japanese businesses, and they are excited about the future of the UK economy, because we are going to be Europe's Silicon Valley. We have the largest life science business in Europe, the largest technology industry in Europe, more unicorns than France or Germany put together, the largest film industry. You put these together, and we want to be Europe's San Francisco and LA all in one. We think we can get there. We've got big financial services, fantastic university sector. And so if we can get through this difficult period now, in the here and now, we can get to the other side when there are fantastic, exciting opportunities.
So it's interesting you bring up Japan as an example, because, I mean, in the UK, one of the reasons why there is such high wage growth and also inflation as a derivative of it is a shortage of skilled workers, yes, and it's broadening or spreading, if I'm not mistaken. In Japan's case, they've had a very closed and tight labor market for a very, very long time, as you well know. But recently, in the last 5-7 years or so, forced by circumstances, of course, including fairly not great growth, right? They've been opening the doors to foreigners, immigration. In your case, both major parties have said, no, that is not the way out. Why is it not the way out of this inflation conundrum?
Well, labour supply is a big issue across all advanced economies. Japan has traditionally had as close to zero migration as they can possibly manage. We have always had a level of migration, whether pre-Brexit or post-Brexit, but we don't want to be dependent on migration. And that's why my budget package sought to remove barriers. The flagship measure was childcare measures, which make it much easier for young parents to get back to work when they have children, by reducing the cost of childcare. And we've got about 1 million vacancies in the UK economy. We've got 7 million adults of working age who are not in work. So we think there's plenty of opportunity to resolve our labour supply issues internally. Yeah.
But does the UK's birth rate and demographics support that, though? Is this sustainable?
Well, the demographic we have is a little bit more favourable than some other countries, but yes, that creates pressures. I think there's some way to go before we have to have the debates that they've been having in Japan. And I would say that no economy wants to waste the talent of millions of people who could be in the labour market but are prevented to by barriers beyond their control, and that's what we're seeking to address.
So a quick last question. I know you're a busy man. You've already been quoted in terms of reaction to the BOA's rate hike overnight to 4.5%, saying, look, it's good the BOA now doesn't think the UK economy is going to slip or dip into recession, but, well, it's going to be tough for people with mortgages. One of the reasons that inflation is still high and is expected could potentially go even higher is that a lot of people with mortgages are on fixed mortgages, and the actual pass-through or effects of very aggressive hikes by the Bank of England have not been felt yet. So with that, how do you intend to have inflation by the end of this year, to about 5% or so?
Well, that's what the Bank of England forecasts suggest. You're right that because of fixed-rate mortgages, there's a delay in the pass-through time. But there will be an effect because every month a certain number of people have to renew their fixed-rate mortgages, and so you do get a dampening effect on demand as a result. But that's why it's good that we have independent forecasters, economists, who are not politicians, who have one job only, and that is to bring down inflation to the target 2% level, and we need to support them to do their job.
All right, Chancellor, it's been excellent talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Martin.
Okay, pleasure is ours. And we've been talking to Jeremy Hunt there, the Chancellor of the Exchequer of the UK, as our coverage here at the G7 Finance Leaders meeting continues. Back to you.